What is one of the deepest pains you've ever experienced? And it's going to be a two-part question. This your boy, Ty Corbett, host of the No Excuse Podcast.
Losing my dad was probably the deepest pain.
I am your host, Ty Corbett, and welcome once again. On this show, we interview experts and everyday people who have overcome challenges and achieved great things in life. We talk about mindset, motivation, productivity, mental health, business, resources, entrepreneurship, and everything else that you need to know to live life with no excuses. So, with that being said, I have a special guest here today for everybody. Hey, y'all know him. He's out in the community, and everybody should know this man. I couldn't do justice by introducing him no better. Good friend, good brother of mine. I want to welcome you, Mr. Aaron Lumpkin.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And before we get started, Mr. Lumpkin, and let me not say that because you my guy. So
I was going to say, how long we going to keep up with Mr. Lumpkin?
Yeah, we got to stop that. Okay. So, Aaron, man, I want you to just introduce yourself to the people and tell them all about what you got going on and what you're doing.
Oh, man. So I'm Aaron Lumpkin. What I've got going on right now is currently I serve as the community manager for JP Chase & Company. So JP Chase has a $30 billion racial equity commitment, and I serve as the agent of reaching out to nonprofit organizations, small businesses, local officials, government officials, local leaders, and just being their connectivity back to the bank. With the primary focus being on spreading financial literacy and figuring out ways we can develop our neighborhoods. So that's my primary responsibility. I come from banking and finance. I started my career as an insurance agent for Western Southern Financial Group, did the sales rep, and did the sales manager job for them. And then I left there and actually came to JP Chase and managed the Chase Bank in Trotwood. Mm-hmm. I know that you understand why I did that, because Trotwood is the community that's dear to me, where I grew up and everything. So they gave me the opportunity to manage where I was from. So I went back to that. In that same spirit, I wanted to be able to create and be able to impact lending in Black and brown communities. And so the job that I took after that was the CEO of Montgomery County Credit Union, which is now Bridge Credit Union here in the Dayton area. So after that merger occurred, I went to be a manager at Key Bank, did some diversity, equity, and inclusion work at Key. And then JP Chase said, we got this job that we feel like would be really cool for you to do. And, my initial reaction to that was, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. But luckily, my boss is a guy named Kevin Thomas, and I dressed up. I got all dressed up for the interview.
Yeah.
I logged into the call, and he's like, oh, man, what are you dressed up like this for? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I was at work, and I didn't want to be late. Now he's like, man, relax, man. Just be yourself. And this job really encompasses me being able to be me. And again, it gives me the opportunity to impact people that are like me, that live in my community, mm-hmm. and to bring the resource of financial literacy and the resource of understanding that we can own our own things.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that's where I am now. And in my off time, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, mm-hmm. I'm also working under Kerry Ivey at Trotwood Madison. Kerry Ivey and Jeff Graham. I'm the offensive line coach with Kerry Ivey, and I do his spotting on the games for Friday night in the press box. So shout out to my Rams. We're on a roll right now. We're 6-2. We're gonna get into the playoffs. Looks like we got a chance to make a deep run. So.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So thank you so much, man. It's amazing when we can have guests that we love and we care for, and especially great friends of ours that come to the show and make no excuses for being great. I sit here and I listen to everything, and we're close. We talk all the time. But just to see the impact and the things that you're doing in our community, being from Trotwood and being able to have the impact on the community, and not just in Trotwood, but the Dayton community as a whole, is just amazing. And we thank you so much. We always talking about giving our flowers to our individuals while they're here, and we want to make sure we give you your flowers. So, We also want to talk about what it means to live life with no excuses. And I know you've been through so much in life, far as your upbringing, far as coming from a great family, your mom, your dad. I know when I was there, I was so happy just to try out for him. So just man, giving honor and giving homage to to those individuals who had actually showed me some things, and definitely showed you some things about perseverance and making no excuses for, even when we feel like we mess up, but making no excuses for being great.
Right. I always tell people that I had the luxury of growing up in the house with my three biggest heroes. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth on so many different levels, man. My dad always told us, wherever you go, you take not just you with you. Mm-hmm. You have to remember that. Everywhere you go, you take yourself and where you're from with you. So you make sure you're representing our name and the name of where you're from better than the best way that you can.
Absolutely.
And then my mom was in the building with us. Mom was a teacher when we were at Trotwood. Mm-hmm. She was in the building and stuff like that. And at first, I'm like, I don't want mom to be in the building. Yeah. Once I realized, it's pretty cool to go and have conversations with your mom about what's happening during the day.
Absolutely.
And John is who he is. Absolute financial advisor. He was an Ohio State Buckeye. Mm-hmm. He was a New England Patriot, somebody that we could all look up to. And he was always touchable.
Yeah.
He never, sometimes people go away and you can't touch him.
Yeah.
He was always connected to us. So I always appreciated that and how fun he made football look and tight end look and made me want to do it, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. And all of those people that were in my life are part of the reasons why I bought my house in Trotwood. Everybody's like, why would you live in Trotwood? In Trotwood, because Trotwood's my Beaver Creek.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or Trotwood's my Clayton or my Inglewood. Trotwood to me is just like those places.
Yeah.
I think why would you want to live there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's how I am. And I give some people a hard time about that when they don't choose to do what we did. And that's not anything wrong with living where you want to live or anything like that. But for me, seeing the impact that my parents had on people that were not in our house, let me know that you could have that kind of impact because kids respect you when they can see you.
Yes, and they can touch you tangible. Yeah.
And they're like, man, I might go in here at the meat store. You remember that meat store used to be in Trotwood?
Yeah. Yes.
I might be thinking about going to grab this meat out of here and not paying for it, but I might run into Mr. Lumpkin when I come.
Exactly.
Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, those things, man, I really think I was really blessed. My dad passed away 18 years ago this past September, September. And the stories and the things that he went through and the things that he taught us. They moved to Trotwood to the angst of himself because he was a West Dayton Roth Falcon. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he's like, Trotwood, we going to Trotwood. You would have never thought he loved Trotwood like he did because he coached there for so long, but he's a large part. Him and my mother are both large parts of the reason why we're active in the community like we are today. And the No Excuse podcast, he didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He never wanted to hear it. I remember we were playing Kentucky when I was playing for Mississippi State, and I broke my ankle.
Okay.
And it was a hairline fracture. So we're going to treat it like a sprain, but it's a fracture, so we got to be careful that it doesn't break more. We keep putting pressure on it. And so everybody's like, well, you okay,
Yeah.
My dad's like, so you going to play against Alabama? Y'all got next week off. And so you got a couple of weeks. I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I know you okay.
Are you going to play?
Last time
playing
Alabama, you going to skip the game? So
or you going to make an excuse?
Or you going to make an excuse? You going to blame me on this broken or you going to get out there and play? But that's just who he was, and that's why we are who we are today.
Absolutely.
And it's why we believe in legacy. That's why John and Asina are like out in Trotwood right now. And we love where we're from, man. We love our community and everything like that. And we'll do everything we can to help it.
Great, man. That is, man, just having this conversation and be able to sit down with like I said, with a great friend of mine, brother. So I'm gonna get into some questions, man, and I want you to know, like, for me and being able to be in a position that I'm in and have a platform that I have to also motivate our younger generation and be able to give them no excuse. And just because my journey, how much I have been through, and that's why I developed this podcast, is because when I go back and I look at everything, it was like I couldn't make no excuse. Because in all actuality, anything that happened, anything that I went through, and this is for everybody in the public out there, anything that I went through, whether I did something wrong or I was just being a knucklehead, whatever it was, I can't make excuses because I did have people that was around. And even if they wasn't, I knew right from wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew right from wrong, whether it was taught to me by my parents or whether it was talked to me by a teacher or, a neighbor, it was there. So I make no excuses for nothing that I did wrong and nothing that I did right, because all of them was about us looking at it and saying, hey, there's no exception to the rule.
Right.
It's no exception to the rule. So let's get into some of these questions. So the first question I got for you is, and we're going to go into business because you're a business guy. So we're going to get into it. Sure. Were you prepared? And I know your parents, had the education piece down, but when we talk about business, were you prepared for business? And when you did get into business, do you think you was prepared for the real entrepreneurship and not like what we thought was business or entrepreneurship with the man who was the hustle, who was the guy who was cutting grass or, just doing whatever?
The one thing that I learned over the years is those entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the economy, right? So those who cut the grass, those who are there every day, they're the lifeblood of the economy. Was I prepared for it? I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because, I had a framework of education that prepared me for, what it was I wanted to do. Okay. No, in the sense that you never know until you actually go do it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that, I guess that's the short answer to that question. But it's so much you can learn from the person that's cutting the grass. Mm-hmm. So much that you can learn from the shop that's there, the people that are selling the scents, the people, the barbers that are cutting the hair, they have to know that they got to pay the booth rent and stuff like that. Those are the people that in my work now, I love to be around them.
Yeah.
I love to bring my resources to them because they're the ability to scale. In Black communities, they're the businesses that'll stay. They're the ones that don't go. They're the ones we got to reach out to make sure that they make it. We got to create spaces for them to be able to be seen, heard, and sell their products.
Yeah.
And you know what? We have to have patience with them because you know what? Maybe they get something wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they do, but when they get it wrong at Walmart, we go back. You know what I mean? So we have
that is great.
We have to have patience with our entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They're learning, man. And they're doing something that is scary to do because everything that they eat comes from what they do, man. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Like we work for different people, right? Mm-hmm. What they do, it comes from what they put out there.
They put out
their business and the preparation in that to be somebody who can be a bridge for them to get them in front of a lot more people. It's a joy, man.
Man, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. What's the most difficult decision you ever had to make on your journey to entrepreneurship and being in business?
I think, I think my most difficult decision, separate myself from my businesses, take the job that I have now.
Wow.
Because, my brother and I, we have that in common. We have the business in common, and separate myself from that so that I could do this work was hard.
It was hard.
But it was also necessary because these kind of roles don't come along. They're new, and you get to have such an innovative piece and such an innovative space in helping develop programming locally that can help different people. So when we talked about it, it was like, you have got to do this to take this job. You've got to do this to get this work done. So I think in my career, that was one of the hardest decisions I made. Outside of that, the hardest decision you ever make is where you decide to go to school, I think. A lot of people didn't understand my choice. They were like, why would you want to go there? You know what I mean? And the reason why is because of the soul of the people there. I needed something that was separate from John, and I needed to create a path that was me. And the Starkville was that for me. It was the first time that I'd ever spent that kind of time alone. But I will tell you that the people there taught me how to love where I was from in a way that I'd never seen before. Because everything that you hear about Mississippi, it's crazy, it's bad, but when you get around the people that are from there, you get a real sense of the passion of how it is to love where you're from. If you had told me when I left, you're going to buy your house, you're going to live in Trotwood, and you're going to entrench yourself and making sure that young men and women in Trotwood, Madison have, I would have told you were crazy.
Yeah.
But then I saw what Mississippi State taught me was that home really matters. I started doing research on how can I impact where I'm from?
Yeah.
What can I do where I'm from? How can I love where I'm from like these people love where they're from? And I always tell my teammates that when I talk to them. Like, they taught me more than when I was here how to love where I was from. And that's
immerse yourself in your community.
Right.
That's crazy, because that's where I was going with it. As I was going to ask you the same question, but the question was going to be on your journey to becoming your own man. And so you answered that, and I like, man, that was dope, man, because I think, especially when we grow up with a father or mother or a big brother or big sister that paves this big picture. John came before you, and John laid out this path where it's like, you're supposed to be that, and you got to live up to what he was, or what he, instead of them looking at you as your own man. Right. And I think a lot of times, even with our children, and my son had went through this, the schools expected him to play like me and be like me when he wasn't me.
Well, I mean, John's a happier guy than me.
It's true.
So,
that is true.
Like, and my dad's demeanor, like my competitive level is like, John's a competitor, man. People don't know he's happy, but he don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know how to be happy and not want to lose. So I just said,
I was in practice.
Yeah.
I was in practice.
Had to be my former teammate, man. But even in our careers, right? When I took the manager position at J.P. Chase, John was a manager on Main Street. And, the corporate structure is always funny, like, oh, are you looking at what your brother does? And I'm like, nah, not really.
Yeah.
Just trying to make sure that we get our stuff right over here. But even in that, it was like, create your own way, create your own path, and do things your own way. And so it was Mississippi State. And my mom was like, why not Auburn? Why would you want to go to Mississippi? I said, Mom, Auburn's in Alabama.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like we're making that. That much of a different choice here. And it was
pretty close.
It was because of Jackie Sherrill and how he was and how he was honest with me about.
Yeah.
He's like, you're a militant guy. And, you're about your people. You're liberal.
Yeah.
You should probably stay away from these places.
Yeah.
And I respected that.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah.
I respected that. Like, oh, dude, man, he's really about that life. So I made that choice.
Man, I think when we look back at those things, and I, like you said, one of the biggest decisions is where you're going to go. And I think it's more or less, what are you going to do? Whether you go to college, whether you go into entrepreneurship, whether you go to skill trade, or whether you just say, I don't want to do nothing. I think that's the biggest decision. And I want to give a special recognition to Miss Sharon Goins. She had told us all, and I remember my senior year, she had us all in the classroom, and she said, baby, I'm going to tell you this. What are you going to do the day after you graduate? That next morning when you wake up and you have nothing to do because you haven't prepared, you haven't planned, you just don't know what you're going to do. Like, what are you going to do that very next day? Even if you do have a plan and you're going to college, when you go to sleep after graduation and you don't have to go to school the next day, what are you going to do that day, next day? And it didn't sit in until I really answered the question.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know. What exactly? And I remember preparing myself for Central State. And I think Central State was one of the best decisions I ever, and my hat's off. Central State was amazing and is still a phenomenal institution of higher education. And I think me going there, it prepared me for whatever I was going to face in life.
Right.
And it told me and it taught me that I couldn't make any excuses. I couldn't make any excuses for not being successful, for not growing, for not being educated, because it's right here. We're giving it to you.
Our historically black colleges, I do a lot of work with Central State. So shout out to Kim Jones, because when I go out there and I teach my financial literacy classes, it's always a different question and an innovative question from the Central State students.
Man,
they're so key to the development of the communities here in Dayton. And I think that we need to do a better job of connecting to them.
Yes.
Because they are like so close. You don't understand how, and people don't know this. A lot of people, I don't know if people realize it. Ohio's only two historically black colleges are right here.
Right, next door to each other, across the street.
Two of the oldest ones,
yes.
Right? And they're right here in the Dayton region. And for places like where we live, we come from, and the people that we want to have the impact on, the homeowners associations that I come in contact with, the students that we come in contact with,
Mm-hmm.
teaching and dating in public, Trotwood, Madison, and Northridge,
Mm-hmm.
all of those different places need to be connected to our historically Black colleges.
Absolutely.
And, that's something that my parents went to Fisk.
Yeah.
That's met at Fisk, so I have a deep respect for you guys that went there.
I got some more questions, and I know you got things you got to do, but I want to get these in. So and we go through so many things in life, and I'm gonna ask you this, and this may touch home a little bit. What is one of the deepest pains you've ever experienced? And it's gonna be a 2-part question.
I mean, I guess losing my dad was probably the deepest pain, but one of the things that's number one. But in a professional setting is some of the discrepancies in the resources to Black and brown communities. That's why I love the work I do, because we're in there to close the gap of wealth and understanding and financial literacy. So some of the most painful things you go through are just hearing people's stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Just seeing people meeting people where they are, and understanding that you might have the information that's going to help them get to the next thing. I like seeing people. I've literally taught classes over the last couple of years and come in contact with some organizations where people have been on their last leg.
Yeah.
And one of the most gratifying things after that pain is sharing that pain with them, is seeing them overcome it. I taught a class once where we were teaching credit, and it was women who had been taken advantage of. And we were teaching the credit classes, and they were talking about stuff that was on their credit. And we ended up teaching the class. We did the series for 6 weeks, and at the end of it, we had people that were able to qualify to purchase homes. So that kind of impact helps you see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. But but outside of the personal experience of losing my dad, those are the things that pain me the most. And so I put all of my energy into saying, what can we do to change this dynamic? What can we do to get the person who doesn't know where it was going next, doesn't understand their credit, only understands that I have to feed my family, and whatever that $50, that $100 I have left, I got to make that last. You got to stretch time I get. I got to stretch it till the next time I get paid. How do we help them? How do we impact those people?
So with that being said, and this is the second part to that question, because that's just phenomenal answer. How did you overcome and persevere and make no excuses for not wanting to give up when you lost something and someone that meant the world to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that excuses, John always tells me that excuses are monuments of nothingness. Okay? If you live in an excuse-based world, then you can never advance yourself.
Yeah.
And every time I get ready to make an excuse, so I almost made an excuse about get down here today. I said, you know what? Excuses are monuments of nothingness. Right? You need to go do it. And they don't do anything but get in your way. Everybody has circumstances. They give you a certain set of cards, and you have to play them. And those are the cards that you have to play. You have to play life and get things out of life that's given to you. Because wherever there's an excuse or there's an obstacle in your way, there's also a resource for you to get to.
There is.
And that's what you always have to remember.
So is there anything or one thing that you had to do in your life that you didn't want to, but you did it because you had no excuse not to?
I mean, I think that happens just about, that happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
I had to change the way that my lifestyle, because I almost, in 2019, I almost lost my life because how I was taking care of myself. And so, I had excuses. I like Cheetos. But I had to put them down.
You had to put them down. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes your life makes those decisions for you.
Yeah.
And over the past few years, I've been pretty good and everything like that. But sometimes life makes you make choices that you don't really want to make, but you just have to, and you don't have any excuse not to.
That's right. That's right. And I want to add to that. because you gave me the personal one. Give me a professional one.
Throughout my career, you know me, and I'm very, very to the point.
Mm-hmm.
I have no bones about it.
Absolutely.
And things like that. And I feel like the truth is the truth, and if you can't handle it, that's your problem.
Yeah.
But that's not emotional intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my excuse was, well, I'm real though. Sometimes keeping it real can really go wrong. And what I've learned in my professional life is that you have to be able to get your point across in a way that's not, it can be blunt and it can be to the point, but it also has to have some sort of emotional intelligence, what you're saying. And you have to be able to not offend the people in the room that you're going to have to work with. There are things that I see in my work that I want to say all kinds of stuff to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have to make sure that you discipline yourself.
Yeah.
To represent the people that don't have it. To represent the have-nots in a way in the rooms that you're in, to make sure that you can bring that resource back to them. And so you can't always get that with sour grapes.
So I would definitely want to get this to the people. So in so many words, what we're saying is when you in those rooms and you on those platforms to really make a major impact and give back to your community or help whoever you're trying to help, you just have to make sure that the things that you're putting out there, because you know, in our society is you ain't keeping it real.
Right.
You know, you ain't keeping it real if you do this. Well, part of keeping it real is understanding the environment you're in, but understanding the long-term goal and the effects of what you say and what you do and how it can affect other people and affect the bottom line.
Right. And you have to understand that just because you can present the case that there's some disparities in the way there's a wealth gap.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gap in financial education.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gap in the resource of being able to invest and understand private banking. There's a gap in, the services that might be provided to certain communities. Mm-hmm. You can recognize that it's a gap, and you can come up with innovative ways and professional ways to address those gaps without stepping on a bunch of toes.
Absolutely.
And that has been a big part of being able to do this work for me.
Man, that's great, man. You've been coaching for a long time, and I know you run into all kinds of and all of our young people from all walks of life,
mm-hmm.
and making sure that they understand more than football. And that's a big thing, because I know when we play sports, and I feel like maybe just me, but I feel like they did, and I'm not gonna say kind of, they cared for us. Our coaches, our teachers, they wanted to see and hold us accountable for who we would be in the long run.
Right.
And so when you have these young individuals and these minds, and they've changed, because they ain't who we are or who we were when we were younger. How do you, and what ways can you give back and impact them in the biggest way? Is it through the sports field? Is it through entrepreneurship? Is it through business? Like, what is the thing that really catches them?
It's all of those things.
Okay.
For me, coaching is a therapeutic thing.
Okay.
I actually enjoy the coaching part of it more than I did playing.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, because you get to see what you teach impact the people that you're coming in contact with. Mm-hmm. With coaching comes those things where, you have to learn how to deal with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Like our situation in Trotwood, we have kids that literally, our football team is their family. Mm-hmm. And that's not saying that because it's a cliche.
Yeah.
It's literally, hey, this is the family that they have. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not.
It's not wrong with that. So we get the joy in watching them develop and grow. If you watch, my particular groups were the 8th grade and the 9th grade group, the ones that I coached directly since they were in kindergarten and 1st grade. Mm-hmm. Just watching their growth and seeing that stuff, man, I get emotional thinking about how they've grown. And a lot of them they're good young men, and they're doing the right things, and they're doing that in spite of the circumstances. They're not making excuses, and for the things that happened to them.
Yes,
the things that happened to them.
Yes,
a couple of kids that have had very, very traumatic things happen to them, and they're still thriving in the classroom.
Yeah,
they're still thriving on the football field.
Wow,
and they look at the football team and our football environment as a structure and as a family, and that is the link to higher education.
Yeah.
So they understand that that's the reason why we do it. The most important part of it is education, and getting them access to that. But they have to have access to Black men that have done different things, gone different places, and that are in this community. Up until last year, we had one of the best surgeons in Ohio working on our football staff. Was one of the top people at Premier Health was working on our football staff. You have people that were like, right now we got Doug Spears. He works at the county. You know, we got people that are in different walks of life that they can see, and we're coaching them in football, but they can see the work that we're doing outside of it. But I think the biggest message of that is that we are of and in the community that they're growing up in.
That's phenomenal, man. Y'all, it sounds like just what it is. Y'all make no excuses and y'all hold no punches and require them to be great. And anytime you have a program like that and that is putting out and producing the product that is so phenomenal and so much more than just football, just athletics, then it's a recipe for success. And so we want to say that, and we want to make sure that we recognize the fact that you hold them accountable and you give them no excuses. And that's what this is about. So this last one, what would be your message to those who struggle to find their own path to success?
You have to find things that you're passionate about. The one thing about working and everything like that is if you feel like you're getting up and you're going to work every day, you're probably not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Like my job, man, I love what I do. I feel they're like, you need a vacation. I'm like, okay, well, then what does that mean?
Yeah. What is a vacation?
I'm ingrained in what I'm doing. So when you start talking about creating things for yourself and doing things, make sure that you're doing something that you love and that you have passion behind.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing that, then it never feels like you're working.
Yeah.
You're always going to do the right thing and impact people the right way.
Yeah. We get to go. Nah, you absolutely right, man. And that is just, that means so much, especially with our individuals and our listeners out there. We want to make sure that you guys are showing your younger generation these podcasts and letting them know that it is us and our men and our women and great people in the community that's here and that has programs and putting things on and showing you that if you really want it and you really want to achieve it, you make no excuses for it. No matter what you've been through or what you're going through. You know, I got this thing that I do now that I get to a certain point, and if it's something that's happened to me or something that's weighing heavy on me, and I could be sad, I could be emotional about it, I tell myself, say it happened on a Friday, and I say, okay, you got the weekend. You got the weekend. Sit in it, soak in it, do whatever you got to do, but come Sunday midnight, it's over with. It's over with, and you can't make no excuses for staying in that because you have the power to change that, and I put that in my mind, and so then when I go through something, even if it's an hour. All right, this happened. I got an hour to soak in it. Let it go, get it off, and then be done with it. So, man, I thank you so much. And I do want, real quick, if you could just give the public, the people, some resources to what you're doing and what you got going on, just resources and how to get involved.
So this month we got a couple of things going on. In my job, we got a couple of events coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have an event that we're having in downtown Dayton called Black Men in Finance. We're going to bring some of the most influential Black leaders in the Dayton area for JP Chase together with nonprofit organizations, small businesses, and anybody that wants to come out and talk to us. We're doing that in conjunction with the Good Hood Foundation.
Wow.
So we got that coming up. We also have the community health fair block party that we're doing an event with Goodwill Easter Seals in Trotwood. In LeVar Glover and his space. We want people to come out. If you have a kid that's playing winter sports, they're going to be giving physicals there. We're going to have some financial literacy resources available at those things. And then we're going to do some toy drives at the end of the year. We're going to get into your neighborhood and make sure you guys are taken care of. But in those things, we're also going to teach you some financial literacy. Okay? And then look for some things coming with the incubator and JP Morgan Chase. We've got some things that we're working on together. But other than that, like what Taiwan's podcast says, don't make the excuse. It's just a monument of nothingness, right?
There it is. There it is. That's dope, man. So, as always, I always want to leave y'all with a final thought. For me, this was a very, very, very big day because, like I said before, to be able to sit here with someone who knows you and has seen you go through the trials and tribulations of life no matter what part it was, from a young age, and see me persevere through that, and also see him persevere through it and be able to say, hey, I made no excuses for even the things that were bad in my life. I picked myself up and I kept walking. Utilize and lean on the people who are there for you. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask, and if you don't know something, ask questions. And that's what we're about, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to show you guys that this is possible. There's no excuse for you sitting and living in a place that you don't have to live in, and being upset or being sad or not persevering or not building wealth and business, because the infrastructure is here. We are here. We have so many resources to provide for you. So make sure you continue to tune in, and we will be at your disposal. We love you, and until next time, peace.